Disney's Disneyland.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are.
Each week as you enter this timeless land, one of these many worlds will open to you. Tomorrowland, promise of things to come. Fantasyland, the happiest kingdom of them all. Frontierland, tall tales and true from the legendary past. Adventureland, the wonder world of nature's own realm. Presenting this week from Adventureland, a trip through Adventureland and a true life adventure, Waterbirds. Now your host, Walt Disney.
Ever since Disneyland Park opened, one of the most popular realms has been Adventureland. As many as 10,000 people a day have taken this boat trip safely and comfortably through the waterways of our man-made jungle. Many of our visitors are third and fourth timers. Most everyone has been impressed by and curious about the realism of Adventureland. The lifelike animals, the authentic tropical settings. We've had many requests to tell the full story, both inside and out of this tropical realm. Well, it all started with an idea that sprang from our true life adventure films. We would duplicate in Disneyland Park actual scenes and settings from this nature series. Of course, we knew that our biggest job would be recreating the actors of the wildlife dramas. The king of beasts from our motion picture, The African Lion, the elephant, the giraffe, and all the others. Of course, to stock Adventureland with live animals was neither safe nor practical. So on paper, we began to sketch and design replicas that would be made of plastic and steel, but when in action would be as lifelike as their real counterparts. As a backdrop for the animals, we would have a dense jungle. And as a sort of flowing theme to tie the whole realm together, we would have a network of tropical rivers. Altogether, Adventureland was an ambitious project, and we knew it. But eventually, as we untied the knots and solved the riddles, out of the drawings came blueprints. And out of the blueprints, bulldozers. In Disneyland Park, the job of carving out the tropical waterways of the world was at last underway. Whenever you try to duplicate nature, you have to work on a grand scale. And so before this job was over, we moved not tons, but whole mountains of earth. Then from the far corners of the world, we imported many varieties of plants and trees, most of them full-grown. In studio workshops, meanwhile, artists and engineers were creating lifelike, life-size animals, the actors in the Adventureland drama. And soon they began to make their entrances one by one along the dry river beds. Jungle resident guaranteed to furnish chills even in the warmest weather is this cannibal chieftain. Along the Mekong River, in another part of the jungle, The ruins of an ancient Siamese temple take on a few more centuries of antiquity under the deft strokes of an artist's brush. And sometimes even nature can be improved upon with an occasional splash of man-made color. The smaller creatures of Adventureland must be carefully groomed and prepared for the busy days that are soon to come. To a family group known as saurians, the crocodiles and alligators belong. And of course, they belong at Adventureland too. This Disneyland dentist makes sure the croc's crockery will be sharp and shiny. To carry the electrical power that will animate the animals, it takes miles and miles of wire. The electrical wizards get their biggest shock when they find that everything works. One of our true-life adventure photographers keeps a day-to-day film record of the growth of Adventureland. And now he's going aloft for a bird's-eye view. As it turns out, it's a windy day, which doesn't help the photographer's photography or his nerves either. But he sticks to his perch to get this last view of Adventureland just before one of our first big moments. This is the opening of the master valve that brings water to the rivers of Adventureland. 2 million gallons, and several days later, the water has risen to a respectable level. And now, a floating nursery crew operates all day long, soaking the riverbanks to prepare for the planting of new shrubs. In the rowboat is Bob Matty, who built the giant squid for 20,000 leagues under the sea. He's also responsible for these mechanical marvels. Here he checks the wiggle action of a crocodile's tail. Of course, when you're going on a boat trip, the most important item is the boat. Before the upper deck is furnished with seats, awnings, and other trappings, the hull undergoes a final check. And now at last the job is done. The jungle is ready and waiting for the next phase in our Adventureland story. An actual boat trip through the hidden byways of this tropical water wilderness. Well, the hard work and hectic days are behind us now. So, let's join the crowd and share with them in the fun of a true life adventure in Adventureland as it is today. As we enter the gates of this tropical settlement, we leave the everyday world far behind. For here, the atmosphere is filled with the sights and sounds typical of an isolated trading post on some hidden jungle waterway. but we'll stop and browse some other time. Right now, an explorer's launch is standing by to take us on a trip through the tropical rivers of the world. Since you're our guests today, you don't need a ticket. So just ignore the attendant at the turnstile and go right aboard. From this point on, your Adventureland ride will be exactly the same as if you were here in person. So now I'm going to leave you in the hands of your guide, the skipper of your boat.
Welcome aboard the Zambezi Miss. Now, we leave the international dock, the last outpost of civilization, and glide into the upper reaches of the Amazon. And now we're on a broader stream, the Mekong River of Cochin, China. Half hidden by the foliage, we get our first glimpse of a man-made structure, the ruins of an ancient Cambodian shrine, abandoned many centuries ago. But there's life in the old place yet. Or a tribe of monkeys are busy trying to remodel the wreckage, or maybe they're trying to ruin the ruins. You never can tell about monkey business, you know. Well, now we're moving into the dark continent of Africa, heading up the Nile. Immediately ahead of the boat, on the right-hand side, watch, we're approaching them now, those three charging alligators. Now watch your hands, please, watch the hands. Oh. Last week, two of them broke their leashes, gouged a terrific hole in the side of one boat. Now, behind that pampas grass on your right, watch those two baby rhinos. They're usually a little bit skittish. Now keep your eyes on them, keep your eyes. There they go. That's our lonesome lady elephant calling to her mate. And from across the river, her lord and master. Oh, man, look at the size of those ears. Well, that's the hallmark of the African elephant. Well, let's leave the happy couple and head for Schweitzer Falls, named in the honor of the famous doctor scientist. Each hour, 120,000 gallons pour over this miniature Niagara, and a little close. Oh, ladies, I'm glad you pulled in those eyebrows just for a moment. But you didn't think we were going to make it, did you? On the left, our lions. I don't particularly like the expression on those faces. Papa Lion's attitude makes it plain that visitors won't be welcome. Not as guests, anyway. And now, if you keep watching that far bank, you can say that you've had a nodding acquaintance with a giraffe. The giraffe, however, won't be able to say a thing, for this is one animal that has no vocal cords. Now, about this part of the Nile, we usually run into something big. Yes, sir. The traffic gets pretty congested here when the hippo tribe comes up for air. Ladies, you watch a little more closely now. They're very docile. You can pet them on the noses. We must look kind of funny to them, too, because the whole colony turns out to meet every boat. Nobody's quite figured out what these two have in mind. Maybe they tell each other funny stories underwater. I'd have to come up for a laugh. Back in the mainstream again, we've probably seen the last of the hippos. Oh, wait a minute. There's old Snaggletooth. Oh, look out ahead, ladies and gentlemen. He almost got us amidships. Now we leave the Nile and push down along the Congo. The air grows thick with menace and mystery. You notice a tingling in your scalp? You feel that danger is lurking behind every log? Well, it is. These fellows know some wonderful tricks with a head. Along the Congo, it's a good idea to mix your curiosity with caution and stay in the boat. Because some of the jungle dwellers have very unpleasant hobbies. Well, this is a village of souvenir hunters, and the trophy here once belonged to a passenger who tried to make a shortcut through the jungle. Even Blinky here keeps his distance. Well, let's leave the Congo with no regrets and come to the spot where all rivers meet, the waterfall, where we like to pause for a moment or two to give those young couples a chance to, well, look into one another's eyes, perhaps hold those hands a little tighter for the moment. Well, it's been smooth sailing up until now, but there's white water ahead. Anybody like to take the wheel? Look down at the end of the pool. Look what waits. We can always depend on Old Faithful here to come down to the lagoon and check the survivors. Well, looks like we've come through safely, which is enough to bring alligator tears to the eyes of this old boy. And now in the distance, there's music in the air. Welcome home music. That means we're back to civilization. And it's been a real pleasure to take this trip with you. Thank you, everyone. Hope to ride with you again sometime.
The magic of Adventureland. And when the time has come to say farewell, the tropic spell will linger on and on. You go, but know you'll be returning to Adventureland.
The expressions that we hear every day is the old saying, as free as a bird. Yet birds aren't really free at all. They have one full-time job simply to stay alive. How nature has adapted her birds to meet their problems of survival is the subject for another true life adventure. So here now is your guide and narrator, Winston Hibler.
In almost infinite variety, nature has scattered her birds across the face of the earth. Each of her species has a long and interesting history, but none is more fascinating than the story to be found in the habits and customs of her water birds. Many water birds are migratory, and each year, up from the equator, flying north to Bonaventure Island in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, comes a flight of feathered fishermen called gannets.